Well, the first cheese that we're going to start with is the Clothbound Cheddar. The Clothbound Cheddar is a traditional English cheese, and the technique of making this cheese is quite similar to the block cheddar that we make. With the difference in here, that we make this cheese, we normally get exclusively milk from Jersey cows to create that creaminess that serve the cheese. And then when it's made, we put the cheesecloth on the cheese, and we don't use, like most producers, this similar type of cheese, I would say. Like in the East Coast, we make some 2 or 3 companies is making Clothbound cheddar, and then we have some other ones in the West Coast. But in our case, we don't use lard in the surface of the cheese to protect the cheese and be able to age. And in our case, we develop the mold naturally with what we have in our own caves. And it takes a little bit longer, but it creates a much higher complexity on flavors and develop a nice, sweet, creamy texture during the aging. Right now, the Clothbound cheddar, we aging for 8 months up to 16 months, I would say, for the traditional Clothbound, and then we have the extra mature or reserve, the reserve, which is normally between 14 and 16 months old when we have available. So this particular cheese that I have right here, I don't recall exactly the date it was made, but it has a beautiful color, nice caramel color, kind of creamy. I can tell you just by looking at. It have a very nice rind, nice and smooth rind. This cheese really look nice, and they have a nice darker color near the surface. That's an indication basically of very well aged cheese, because it's gradually is creating more flavor on the surface of the cheese. So I don't know, Amy, if you want to add something to this.
Well, one thing I'm noticing too is I want to point out for anybody who has a piece of cheese in front of them that the while it was wrapped in cloth for the aging process, before it makes its way to your step or however you shopping at the local specialty store, we're going to remove all that cloth, but you can see that bedded imprint on the outside of the cheese. So we remove the cloth, we brush the rind, and essentially what's there is dried cheese. It's certainly edible, and you'll get a different flavor and texture right at the rind if you were to eat it. I choose not to, but there's no right or wrong there. I think that with cheese and with the whole day, everything that you do with cheese is like a lot of experimenting and finding what you like. If you want to pair your cheese with Oreos, go for it. Like, I think that this cheese maybe doesn't go with Oreos, my opinion. But as I go ahead and taste this, one way that I like to go for it, you can see that my cut is pretty rough. I like to actually dig into it. I have like an old parm spade where I'll kind of just move this down so you can see how I address my cheese. I like to just hit it with the tip of a knife and then turn. And then you really get to feel that texture. So what you saw in those videos before is that those curds are being knit back together. And that's something that's really particular to cheddar that I love. I'm big on texture in general. And with cheddar, I think that that's really one of the most fascinating points, is that it has this kind of bumpiness to it, this rough texture that I really enjoy and I want to highlight. So that's how I like to do it, into little pieces instead of slices if I'm putting it out on a cheese board. So when I taste the cheese, and I did because I can't resist, I've always loved this cheese. I'm noticing that like this wheel in particular, like Mariano said, this is a more aged wheel than what we used to age them to. We used to only age to about 6 months. And the difference was that you would really get that creaminess. Again, it starts with that high quality, high butter fat milk, but it would come through as a very like rich, fatty texture, which was nice. But I really like this because the flavor concentrates over time as the cheese is aging. So it's sitting on a shelf in the open air with that little bit of cloth to kind of keep things together. But the moisture is dissipating into the air, and at the same time, the cheese is absorbing all of those little microflora, the molds, the beneficial bacteria that is thriving in that cheese, is flourishing and really giving it its flavor. So while Grafton is just one of many makers of clothbound cheddar, I think our uniqueness is that we really go for more of an earthy, mushroomy, robust flavor. We're not, while it does have a little bit of a sweetness to it, it's not super caramelly like some other American producers can be. So it's a matter of taste. Again, no right or wrong. I think I know which one's right, but but it's a matter of taste, and you go with what you want. Yeah, all those. So you know, it's kind of unique to Grafton in particular, this robust flavor that you get from our wheels, and I think it's awesome. So we do as little as we can to interfere with the great quality milk that we start out with. And the reason I keep talking about this milk, you might be like, all right, enough, lady. Well, you know, there's only 4 ingredients in the cheese, so every single one of them has to be perfect. And you know, we have to do it with clean hands and make sure that everything is nourished and promoted for growth when we want it to be. And we have to take special care to make sure that it's only the good stuff that is growing and flourishing and influencing the flavor of what you end up with. So it's pretty spectacular, the connection of art and science, the craft of it all, and just the knowledge that comes from somebody like Mariano, who's been doing this for so many years. Mariano has great chops. He's been making cheese for a long time, and in the couple of years that he's been with Grafton, has made some really great advancements. And I think it comes through in the really terrific flavor of this piece, this wonderful traditional clothbound cheddar. So.
Thank you. And I want to add it that actually is every day we make cheese. It's so fascinating because, like you said, there are only 4 ingredients in there. So how can, you know, it's something about it that it's just, it's such a, the milk is such a great food that can be transformed into this concentration of flavors develops, and the bacteria, how they change and create and develop different flavors in the cheese, because every day, no matter what kind of cheese we make, we only use 4 ingredients.
Mm-hmm. And I can imagine. It's awesome. It really is very spectacular to me that it all comes together so wonderfully. So speaking of the seasonality, do you make adjustments according to how the milk is different each season?
Yes, we do. Yes, definitely we do. Winter, spring, summer, they're all different, slightly different milk, even when it's milk, because the cows behave and react to the temperature in a different way. Plus the feed for the cows change also during the season. So some are grass-fed, and during the spring and summer, they are all outside. In the winter, they go back inside, and they got a very ration feed. So all those changes we have to be aware of, so we can do the adjustment that we need. Sometimes they need a little bit more rennet, or sometimes I have to use a different strain of bacteria to be able to create and guide the to where the cheese we want to be.
Cool.
As always, Mariano, you know how much I adore all of your cheeses and how well you do them. I was thinking, I have two quotes from Mariano that I tell everybody. One of them is that when we first met, he said to me, I can make good cheese with good milk. I can make great cheese with great milk, and I can make outstanding, award-winning cheese with outstanding milk. But I can't make outstanding cheese with just good milk. And I've always, just really loved that, because that tells us one thing, is that the end product does come by the quality of the milk that comes through. Of course, the cheese making as well, and that skill is very important. And I asked Mariano once, I said, what's the most important step in cheese making? And he looked at me and he said, all of them. So I really love that. And that's it's like, okay, yeah, you can't not have one. You miss one and they're all bad. So everything is important when you're making cheese. So I have a lot of familiarization with this cheese. I love this cheese. This is like one of my favorites. And so I decided that I do a lot of spicy stuff with it. And I've been working with Bonnie's jams a lot. And so I paired this up with the apricot orange. And it just really just does so well with that little bit of citrus and zing there. And of course, it can't be complete without having an Effie's. And Effie's come out with some new flavors. And the walnut is absolutely magnificent. Now, let's get it straight. You don't have to add anything to this cheese. It is great on its own. So it's really nice to be able to have those things to add to it. And of course, a frosty beverage is always nice. And something that works really well with all of these, if you're thinking of just one beer, and I'm using the Blue Point, the toasted lager. And that has a little bit of maltiness, but it has a lager flavor, which is kind of cleansing and light. And it doesn't interfere, but what it does is it helps kind of clean the palate and, kind of works with everything. So that's what I did.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good to me. Cheers.
Cheers.
I'll add on to that because I love pairings too. I really love this cheese on its own, or melted on a piece of niche like a sourdough bread. But straight up, this is my favorite new pairing. I love kimchi with cheddar. So you mentioned spice. Like there's something about it that's like the little bit of gingeriness and the crunch and it's like a little bit juicy. And you generally have it cold or cool, and it's so delicious with that cheddar. So give that a try too. I'm gonna try your
what's funny is I was going to use a ginger spread and ginger crackers because I love that too. And I think what we run into here is there's just so much. This lends itself so well to be in recipes and to preparing it up that I honestly believe that if you like something, it's going to go with it. It's just that easy of a cheese to pair up. Very uncomplicated.
Yeah, I like the idea of like something juicy, like an apple, or you could do something dry, like or just a cracker. But I do dried fruits. I have a little bit of smoked dried meat too. That's something salty, so like a savory with savory versus sweet with savory. Yeah, again, you just can't go wrong. Cheddar is good like that. It's easy. It's mellow. It wants to be friends with everyone.
We do have the cheddars that we make. We have the 1 year, the 2 years, and those are very similar. And also we have some smoked cheddar. There's maple smoke is one of our best product we have. People can have enough. The maple chips that we use are all natural, and they are given that flavor is pretty unique in our cheddar. We also make some smoked chili peppers. Were very good, and well, mostly are in that line of cheddars. Oh, the truffle. Thank you, Michael. I totally forgot about the truffle. That is a cheese that we basically, when we start developing, we started using a nice company who provide us with the truffle peels and the oil that we use and to infuse the cheese during the milling process. After milling the cheese, we add the truffles in there, and we also use a little bit of the oil in the cheese so they can coat it the curds before it goes in the press, and it gives it a very distinctive flavor and aroma, which is very nice, very balanced, and also is one of our #1 sellers. And then we have, like I said earlier, our 3 very distinctive cave-aged cheeses. Those are the Clothbound cheddar, the Bear Hill, and the Shepsog. And like I said, the Bear Hill is 100% sheep milk, and the Shepsog is 50-50 cows and sheep. And also, all 3 of them, they use 4 ingredients, but slightly different bacteria one to another, so it can develop very different flavors. And of course, the shape of the cheese, the form that we use, also allows us to be able to age those cheeses to a certain period of time, so without allow the cheese to dry too much.
I think it's worth pointing out that about 90% of what Grafton produces is the block cheddar that Mariano was describing, the 1 year, the 2 year, the maple smoked chili and truffle. So we've always produced a lot of that block cheddar, and it's aged differently. So it's made 40-pound blocks and aged in cryovac bags. So it doesn't produce a rind. And that's mostly what we distribute or sell to distributors who then get it to use for like kitchen use. It's very popular on like higher end burgers and in good mac and cheese, or in retail bars. You'll see that around the States.
All right, the sheep milk. I'm gonna need to like we said earlier, it's coming from a small community of Amish, and in the milk quality that we receive, we work very close with them also. We go and visit them, and they come and visit us, and so we tell them the quality of what we need specifically from the that production of the milk, so we can be able to work together on creating something, because those communities, the Amish, they are so naturally produce things, and they don't use, let's say, pesticide or herbicides to their fields and things like that. So we work together. So there's certain type of forest that they, can feed the animals or things like that, so they can bring that into the flavor of the milk. So, and it's always a pleasure to work with that milk, because like I said, it's so nice and rich, and of course support that community, because one of our fundamentals, our mission, basically. So to work with that milk, which is very seasonal, is only from March to October that we receive their milk. And then we have the time in the spring where all the sheep are producing even more milk in the spring. So we normally make 2 types of cheeses twice a week, because we're receiving 400 gallons per shipment. So that's not a whole lot of milk. So it's very limited, and of course, it's seasonal. So we have a very short window in the year that we can produce those cheeses. And one of them, like the Shepsog, we're probably going to test later, it's a beautiful cheese because it's a combination of cows and sheep, and allow us to kind of bring the best of the 2 milks during the process of the cheese. And we had to be very meticulous and very precise in what we do in terms of timing and so we can be able to bring the best of those 2 milk in 1 cheese, which is very exciting. Very well. Shepsog is, like I said, is a natural rind cheese. It's more like a comb, or if you want to compare to something, it's a beautiful cheese. They have a nice pale color, thanks to the sheep milk, which is normally the sheep milk. It doesn't have much carotene that the cow's milk has. That gives us that very yellowish color. If you can see and compare those two, this is a little bit more pale color, but this is one of the qualities of the milk. So this we're using half and half important percentage of the milk. And this particular cheese we made in almost like a cheddar style. We developed the lactic acid in this cheese similar way of the cheddar. And what we do with this is we cut in very small curds to be salted, and then we press in the format of 5 kilos or 12 pounds wheels. So we found that size of the wheels is very good to be able to develop the flavor that we're looking for in the matter of time that we want to age this cheese. I don't know if you have the cheese. I would like to taste a little bit.
Amy?
I have the cheese. I'm loving the beautiful buff rind that that has developed on this one as opposed to the second one. So just to be sure that everybody can see the difference between the Shepsog and the Bear Hill. Bear Hill has like a bit more of kind of a, in my, you know, it's like I mentioned, I'm in North Carolina. It's pretty warm out here, but the full fat of the Bear Hill really seems to kind of want to come to the surface. Whereas this one, I think that talking about the benefits of both combining sheep and cow milk, I think that it helps it to kind of like hold together a little bit better. And when I see this on the counter, I love it because I'll be honest, it's a little bit less expensive. It's a little bit more approachable for more people. And it's also just such a pretty cheese. You know, it has a nice, approachable and appealing rind. It's a little bit like chalk-like. And if you give it a smell, I mean, you're probably smelling the same thing that Mariano is in that room right now. So I think that's a beautiful thing. It really captures not just the milks and the benefits of that great milk you're starting with, but also that long aging process that just really infiltrates this cheese from the rind in. So in my piece, I'm definitely seeing that darkness around the edge, and the cheese is going to have more of that concentration towards the rind, which is going to be a little bit drier as it's been exposed to more. But it's kind of fun to see the difference between the center to the rind. And I know that when Mariano is with his tasting team, we go through and we blind taste very regularly to see how the cheese is developing and make sure that it's on the right path and that we release it to be sold when it's really at its peak. And so Mariano will take an iron, a trier, to take out like a core sample, which is, it really does kind of remind me of like when they're testing the Earth's crust, is like you're really seeing what's happening from the outside to the in. So you taste along the way and see how the movement is. So Mariano, don't you think that this is really at its prime? I know that you picked really great wheels for this webinar in particular.
This is exactly, it's in the prime of this cheese because, like you pointed out, it has nice color on near the rind, which is concentrating more of the flavor, but it have a nice mild, nutty, bright, very bright acid with some note of lactics in there that is very, very enjoyable, and it's super creamy. It's super creamy, nice mouthfeel. Particularly, I like this one very, very much. And then you can taste in the texture the influence of the sheep milk in there. They give you that little kind of grainy mouth taste.
Rustic.
What is the word I'm looking for?
Rustic.
Very nice and grainy, kind of, it's very classic of sheep milk.
Yeah.
It's the one you eat a sheep milk feta, for example. After you go through the salt and wet of the feta, you get that nice chucky texture in the cheese.
Yeah, it's definitely different than just like the straight up cheddar that's made with cow. And it's also pretty unusual that we're doing a combination of half sheep and half cow. That's not really something that you see on a lot of cheese counters.
No,
so.
You don't see a lot of companies mixing the milk.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty unique. And it's also just, like you said, it's the best of all worlds in this. So it's fun to have a cheddar that's made with a cheddar style cheese that's made with milk that's not just cow, which is, I'd say, like the vast majority of cheddars are made with cow, just straight cow milk.
Yeah, something I want to point it out to this one too is the aroma. The aroma of this is a cheese. It's very nice, milky, very fresh. It's that bright acid that I was saying. It just gives it that beautiful, beautiful aroma.
Yeah, that acid, I'm getting it. My mouth is just watering more when I take bites and I kind of roll it around in my mouth. I like this with something a little bit juicy because I find the cheese to be, it's dry, it's concentrated, it's aged. I love it with something like a red pepper. I know this is just kind of something that I've developed a love for, is the combination of something that's really juicy together with this cheese.
What is this name and where did it come from?
Shepsog is it's a sheep, and the native language in this region.
Okay.
So I was before my time when they developed this. I cannot really say for sure that I know the story behind the name, but what I learned is there was a native language in this area in the Northeast, the Shepsog, sheep.
Oh, Well, it's certainly not a normal name of a cheese, but then again, it's not a normal cheese. So that kind of goes well. You know, sheep's milk has always been one of my favorites. You know, when you look at a lot of the European versions of it, the Osso Arate and all that, Manchego, beautiful cheeses and so pleasant to eat. And having the cow's milk in here really gives it a little bit more, I think, a little bit more tang. So I was kind of fighting on a direction that I was going on pairing it up, which again, this is another cheese that you don't need to do anything with. You could just let it go as it is. But I'm a big fan of bourbon, you know, and so when I found the fat toad, you know, with the bourbon in it, I thought, you know, this would be really, really a good combination. And that sweetness and the flavors will go really well with it. I'm using a Rustic bakery, you know, one of their just olive oil. And again, it's not really necessary because what I've been doing is literally just dipping, using it as a dip because it's just so good. The cheese and that and just going back and forth. And I'm sticking with the toasted lager. It just still, it works really well with it. Amy?
Sounds good for that too. I love the idea of the caramel because again, you know, we do cook the curds just a little bit and there's that sugar that's already in the cheese or in the milk. And so that caramelizes too, gets a little bit of a toasty, nutty flavor. So it makes sense that it goes together well. Oh, that sounds yum.
Yeah.
Now, Bear Hill is 100% sheep milk. It's a wash rind and won several awards in the past, and we are very proud of this. We're still kind of improving this cheese, and when I use the word improving, people look at me and say, what else you can improve? It's such a great cheese. So, but this is 100% sheep milk, and also is aged for around 8 to 12 months. And this is very, very limited, the amount of milk that we use for this cheese. Again, going back to receiving milk from the Amish community, we had to schedule which cheese we have to make and how much of that we can produce in that small window opportunity that we have. So also is this is more like an Alpine style cheese, wash rind, and is made in the same format as the Shepsog in the 5 kilos or the 12 pound shape, which allowed us to age and develop the flavor that we're looking for in less than a year. And I know the name of this cheese, Bear Hill, is the hill behind our factory here in Grafton. It's a very well-known trail to go to the up at the mountain here in the called Bear Hill.
I've actually had people ask if this was made with bear milk. That's a good opening for me to tell them all about how wonderful straight sheep milk cheeses can be.
And actually in that hill, this past season or a couple months ago, they were seen in there a count of 5 bear in there.
Wow.
Or just walking around.
I love Vermont. I think that this demonstrates the difference between a cheddar style cheese. We talked about that curdy texture as it ages. Don't you think it's got like such a nice smooth texture? I do get that kind of graininess, what you're talking about, but when I break into this, I'm not seeing that kind of curd fissure that happens cheddars. And like, I also see the little fissures on the side of my pieces of cheese as tasting them, but not so much on the bare hill. It's more of like a dense, smooth paste that's just kind of completely cohesive. So you talked about this being like an Alpine style cheese, and I know that we're actually going through some changes with this, where this is a dry salted cheese, so the rind is rubbed with salt, which helps to give the cheese flavor, but also preserves it, and it also pulls out some more of the moisture. And we're editing that a little bit. We're making more of a brine cheese. So also in the Alpine style, it'll just be a little bit of an adjustment that'll give us more of a consistent flavor and texture throughout the cheese. That's one of the benefits of having a great cheesemaker like Mariano, to kind of make these little adjustments as necessary and as we see the opportunity for improvement.
So this cheese right now also is on the peak. This is a perfect time to enjoy this cheese. Have nice, nutty, kind of very complex, kind of, they have that nice sweetness in it, and they show the sheet milk in it very nicely.
Mm-hmm.
Without overpowering, or the slightly caramel, but delicious.
Mm-hmm. I'm getting a little bit of like that, like when you eat lamb, or have that kind of a gaminess to it. There's a little bit more than, it's more of a, I don't want to say anything that doesn't seem positive, because I do find it like it's a real more like natural base flavor that sometimes I don't find in the younger cheeses. So again, it's that concentration with age. But it's a little, it's like making my mouth pop.
Not right now, it feels it's so complex. It's like full of umami.
Umami.
Like, how can I describe this?
Mm-hmm.
It's so beautiful. It's just like,
Yeah, and I think the depth and length of flavor too is what's really great about cheeses that have minimal like involvement with other distractions. We just you taste it for so long, whereas you pull a Cracker Barrel cheddar off of the shelf at your grocery store, not the same. You taste it, you eat it, it's gone. And you feel full afterwards, but it's not like a nourishing sort of like experience that you get with something that's really crafted like this.
Listening to you and thinking about the complexity of this cheese. There's a lot to this. This is really a adult. This is an experienced palate can really enjoy this. And I was trying to think of an analogy, and it would be kind of like somebody that is starting to learn wine, and they buy a $12 bottle and they buy a $300 bottle, and to them it tastes the same because they don't have the palate to understand the complexities of that wine that would be in that bottle. And that was something that you were saying, was that there's some animal in here, but it's wonderful, it's warm, it's embracing. It's not it's like, wow, what is that funny taste? It's a natural, really great umami, lamb, butter, cooked butter, and it's all that just comes together, and you can really appreciate the love and the flavor characteristics of this, because this is not just a cheese. This is actually a much higher level of trying to appreciation of the style and the quality of this. And when I was working on the pairing earlier, and there's a lot of flavor, and so I was trying to think of what I could put with this that would stand up to it, but not overpower, and this wouldn't overpower. I tried a couple things, and this has just got a lot of the subtleties of it. There's a nuttiness in here also, and you don't want to lose that. So I finally figured it out, and it was a lot simpler than I thought. But this is a fig spread. This is Perseverance, a society, and a fig spread works absolutely wonderful because there's an earthiness to the fig, and that fig really just kind of comes in and works just perfectly with it. So fig spread, and then I have some 34-degree crackers. I have a nice assortment, and honestly, just about anything works well with that.
I totally agree. I think like a dried fig spread is a brilliant idea because you're right. The earthiness, it has that kind of sweetness, but it's not overpowering. Brilliant. That was a good choice.
Yeah, I have a visiting golden retriever. If that's, and there we go. All right. She loves cheese so much, and and as well as she knows that it's not something, she loves the rind. And I don't know if anybody else that feeds their dogs the rind. I mean, I generally don't give up my rind, but if I'm going to give up anything here, I'll give up a little rind to them. All right. Well, again, my beverage choice is still sticking with that toasted lager. Works still well. Again, it doesn't get in the way, and it gives me a nice, refreshing flavor. So, anything else that you'd like to say to wrap up, Mariano?
Well, I'm very thankful you give us the opportunity to be in your show and your presentations. I really always enjoy talking to you, and I wonder, and I hope that you have other very successful presentations like this with so many variety of pairings there.
Well, Mariano, it's always good to see you. We talk about our dinner together and our excursion out to the brew pub. So I'm hoping that sometime next year, when things settle in, we'll be back up there and we'll hoist a beer together again. If not, maybe San Francisco.
Who knows?
Amy, you have anything you'd like to finish up with?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for allowing us this forum for presenting cheese, because it's, it's not that often anymore that I get to talk too much with people. So this is as good as it gets. When we can't be face to face, I'm happy to be, screen to face. It's been fun pairing with you. You've got some great ideas, and it's an honor to be on your show because I see so many great features and different cheese makers, and I know that you have a wide and large audience of fans who are learning through your forum. So thank you for including us in it.
Thanks, Amy. It was nice having you on.
Thanks.
Ruth?
Michael, thank you so much. It's nice to see you, if only virtually. We'd love to have you come back up to Vermont, see the new caves. That would be a good trip for you, I think.
I think so. We will definitely put it on our schedule. As soon as we're on, get back on the road, you are one of our first trips, because
Excellent.
We loved it up there. We love hanging out with you, and we really miss being able to see you guys and enjoy some great Vermont hospitality and some of the foods that you have as well. So
Excellent. Thank you so much.
you're very welcome. And again, I hope to see you in San Francisco in January. And between then, please be safe, and we'll keep in touch.
Thank you. Bye
Thank
now.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Thank you.